Skidmore, Missouri, 1981. Population 440. A town where many have been failed by the justice system. 46 people were prime witnesses to a murder, but no one came forth with any damning evidence. Our tale today brings us on a roller coaster of fear, anger, and overall community. So today, we're talking about the town where no one knew a thing.
Ooh.
My name is Nat, and joining me, as always, is my best friend, Katie.
Hello.
And you are listening to Wading into the Void. Happy Pride, y'all!
Happy Pride.
To all of my beautiful lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, pansexual, and all my other babies who fall under the LGBTQ plus community, this episode is for you. Technically, it's not like the theme, no, but this episode, I'm shouting you out. So
I'm
remember,
here to go along with what Nat says.
remember everyone, let's pour a Bud Light out for the fallen and cherished.
Jesus Christ.
And then I wrote in here, make ally joke about Katie. Ally!
I'm the straight part of this podcast.
But it's okay because we love you and you are seen and you are loved.
I literally could not be seen, as straight is, by this country's standard, the default. So this is about you guys this month, not me.
Alright, so I need to move my phone because it keeps vibrating right under the microphone.
Love that.
But let's go straight into Oracle and Tarot because this
Frickin' do it.
is 14 pages long.
Goddamn.
So
she went
yes.
in, okay.
Alright. Today, we are doing the Angelarium Oracle, which is a deck that I backed on Kickstarter and have, like, kind of followed the process of. And I'm very excited because it reminds me of the Mausolea Oracle. I straight up thought it was the same person that was making it. Turns out it's not. They just have very similar art styles. So the Angelarium is the Oracle of the Fallen, and it is by Peter Moorbacher, and the cover and book design is by Emma Hardy for Page Street Publishing Company, and the art is by Peter Moorbacher. So today we got Rahab, the Keeper.
All right. I'm here for Rahab.
I'm also here for Rahab. He's, like, kind of hot. I'll explain what he looks like. He's, like, imagine, like, tall, dark, and handsome with, like, really long, beautiful, luscious black hair.
Okay.
Underwater.
Oh.
Reading a book. Surrounded by fish. With a, I don't even know, it looks like a collar. Like a shackle collar around his neck. Not like a, ooh, collar.
I was like, oh.
No. It's like, he has like chains and stuff. Like he's trying to sink or he's stuck down there or something. I don't know. Let's read. So, Rahab is the keeper. It says, many things floated down to meet Rahab. His dark home was scattered with treasures from the world above. Lost in lovely moments gathered to be appreciated by one final witness. Though they brought him no personal solace, he cared for these wayward baubles. They had not chosen to enter his possession, so he felt it was only fair that he treat them as honored guests. Okay, so he's stuck down here, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So this card means that some things are just out of reach.
Okay.
You can kind of take this card as a sign to accept what has come your way and not worry about what you might be missing. And what you have available to you has many lovely qualities. So don't spend all of your time like, oh, all these things that I didn't get or I lost or I don't have access to. Like, don't focus on that. focus on what you have and how important those things are to you.
I just want that soundbite of you going, wah, to just be readily available to every single person on the universe.
I'm sorry if I'm speaking, like, really erratically. I think I'm a little manic right now. And it's very hot in this room, and I have makeup on, so my face is literally dripping.
She said, I'm melting, bitch.
I'm melting! Okay, anyway.
No lie, when you were talking about Rahab, though, like, the first thing that came to my mind, and, like, you might not get this because you haven't read it, but, was Rune Dannon, Crown Prince of the Valbaran Fae. That, like, Instagram song about Rune Dannon from Crescent City.
Yeah. Word. I have literally no clue what you're talking about.
Read Crescent City.
That's by Sarah
J. Maas,
yeah. I saw it at the bookstore, so I might have to read it. It's not connected, or it is connected to A Crown of Thorn and Roses?
I will not answer.
Well, I don't want to read it if there's going to be spoilers in it.
There won't be.
Oh, okay. So I read it after, though, still?
Yes.
Okay. That's all you had to say.
Yes.
I know, I saw that she's making, like, a book for Asriel right now.
Yes.
And everybody's talking about how, like, kinky he is gonna be. She even said, like, I have fantasies about him and he's really, really kinky. Like, that's the quote or whatever that I saw her say. And I was like,
and I'm ready.
Okay, can't wait.
I'm saying pop off, Sarah.
Yeah, pop off.
Let's go.
I mean, when you look at her picture, you're like, okay, plain, white, blonde woman. But then you read her books and you're like, all right,
like, damn,
I vibe with you. Anyways, what we were doing? Oh yeah, tarot.
Yes. Sorry.
So anyone who's here right now listening, so like the two people that consistently listen to us,
we love you.
We love you.
You didn't see my chest bump, but like, feel it.
Go read the what is it? A Crown of No, A Court.
Yeah.
Of Roses and Thorns. Thorns and Roses. Why can't I picture the title in my head? Oh my, I just think of like a Akatar or whatever. Akatar. That's all I think. I can't ever think of the name.
It's okay, you're probably just thinking, man, this cover's fucking ugly. And
what?
To which you'd be like, yeah.
What?
I hate the cover.
I like them. They remind me of like Nordic art.
I can't stand the covers.
I love Court of Mist and Fury. That's my favorite one so far.
That's fair.
I love the color of the book. Like, I'm still on the third one. I stopped because I was like, I can't take this right now. Because it was, like, really boring at the one part that I was at. Because they're like, we gotta talk to all, like, the kings of all the high lords of all the courts. And now we have to get everyone back in and help us to fight the king. And I'm like, okay, hold up. Let me read this other book. I need a break. So I we're going on a tangent right now, but I downloaded this book onto my Kindle app on my iPad because fuck buying a Kindle. And even though I did buy a Kindle like 6 months ago. But anyways, I bought this book. Let me see if I can find what it's called. Katie, I don't know if you'd like it. You Tell like monogamy.
I am a monogamous person, but that does not mean I don't read about polygamy.
Okay, because this is a why choose,
Girl, I love a why choose.
Quadruplet? What is the word for, like, it's a 4-book series.
Oh.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Bruh.
It's a series.
Why does my sister always call me when we're recording? Hang on. she's leaving me a voicemail, bruh. She said hello.
She does always do it without
How's
fail. It's
relaxing?
kind of impressive.
Would you wanna go swimming with the swimming team of the swimmers? We're gonna get chocolate milkshakes first. Hell
was
yeah,
a lot
brother.
Of swimmers.
Okay, bye. I was reading her transcript. That was what she wait, hang on, let's play this.
Hello? Hey, how's relaxing and playing games? Would you want to go swimming with the swimming team of the swimmers? We're gonna get chocolate milkshakes first. Totally chocolate wasted. Hell yeah, brother. Okay, bye.
I love the Grown-Ups reference. Thank you very much.
We're gonna get chocolate wasted.
I want to get chocolate wasted, Dad. Rip Cameron Boyce.
Yeah, true. I didn't know he was in that movie. I totally forgot that. He was so little.
He was a tiny little thing. I had a crush on him at the time.
I mean,
which we were like the same age.
He was a beautiful boy.
He was.
He was very unique.
Yes, definitely so.
Anyways, so we're talking about tarot. I mean, read the books. Oh, wait. I gotta tell you this book series. Hang on, sorry. It's called Crooked Paradise.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Crooked Paradise, the complete series. Devil's Dozen box sets book 1. Okay, it says box sets book 1. So I literally thought it was one book. I opened it. It's 1,185 pages.
Love it.
It is all 4 books.
Oh, okay.
Which I learned after I read like 300 pages and was like, this is a really long book. And then it was like, book 2. I'm a bitch
why
devil
isn't it
woman
ending?
Or something. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is the longest book series ever. I don't even know. So, yeah, I bought a series on accident. I thought it was one book. You guys should read it. It's really good. It's a why choose, like, gangster, thug life. I don't know. Like, I've been really feeling the gang ones. Not gang bang. Gang, like, mafia, why choose. I mean, kind of gang bang happens at one point, probably. But, anyways.
It is a why choose.
It is a why choose. Like, they all fuck in a van at some point, okay? They're there. Okay. This one's very interesting, though, which I never find this in any of the books that I've read so far. And I don't know if I love it or hate it or whatever. They're, like, obsessed with wearing condoms.
Oh.
They're not, like, obsessed with it. But, like, literally every sex scene, it's like, he pulled out a condom and put it over his thick, long shaft. And it's like, okay, we don't need to hear that they're putting on a condom literally every single time unless you have some kind of condom fetish. I don't know. I'm like, okay.
They want you to know.
I'll skip the next, like, 3 sentences because they have to write the most descriptive detail about them opening the condom package and rolling it onto their penis. So, I don't know.
That is oddly true. They are super specific when they describe that.
I'd
never thought about that.
Because literally in any other book I read, it's like, he thrust it into her as soon as he could and then instantly exploded inside of her. It's like, okay. And then this one, I guess that's cool. But I'm like, I don't really care. I mean, I don't like it when they're like, he blew chunks inside of her.
Jesus!
I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm not into that, by the way. Anyway, so
I really hope everyone's enjoying this segment.
This is going to be a 2-hour-long episode if I keep talking like this. So the tarot for today is the Wild Unknown Tarot Guidebook by Miss Kim Kranz. We are We are bringing back a classic, okay? Today we got the Father of Cups, and this normally represents a person, whether feminine or masculine or what have you, whatever gender identity you have. Did I say that they were diplomatic and open-minded?
You did now.
All right. So the Father of Cups usually represents someone who is extremely, truly unique and has a dynamic personality. They're one of the most feminine, quote-unquote, of the fathers, quote-unquote, within the tarot. So this is just, like, somebody who is usually, like, a patron of the arts, A very dignified person who supports their family and their community. Truly just a very caring person. And the only thing that really holds them back consistently are their deeply rooted insecurities. They're vast and affect their personality in many unpredictable ways. So, that's...
I mean, everybody's got their thing, so...
Everybody's got their thing. Everyone should go to therapy at least one point in their lives.
As Hannah Montana said, nobody's perfect. So
everybody has those days. Everybody gets that way.
Everybody knows what we're talking about. Everybody gets that way.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way.
Yes.
Fucking 15 minutes of nothing. Let's start with something, okay?
Let's fucking go!
So, I hope everyone can probably agree with me here. Everyone hates bullies. Right?
Yeah, bullies are fucking bitches.
I'm about to list some popular bullies, and I know some of them might be a little debatable for Katie, but
okay,
we'll keep going. Okay, Regina.
Debatable for Katie.
Well, just listen. Regina George. Yes. George, not Jors. I can't talk today. Regina George.
Yes.
Draco Malfoy. This one.
Yes, but I love him anyway.
I know. Miss Agatha Trunchbull from Matilda.
Yes.
The guy that bullied me in middle school. Ken McElroy. Bullies. Okay, Ken McElroy did not bully me in middle school, but we're gonna keep going. Okay, he's a bully. I'm sure we recognize most of the people on this list, besides the guy that bullied me in middle school. Turns out he died. But anyways.
Goddamn. Fuck.
Big bad people who belittle and harm people they think are beneath them. That's a bully.
Yes.
Y'all, don't be a bully. To all the bullies out there, your self-consciousness is showing, baby girl. Kiss, kiss.
I was bullied in elementary school.
I was bullied really bad in 8th grade. And yes, my bully died, but it was not caused by me. Sorry.
My bully did not die, but I believe they're now in prison, so get fucked.
Makes sense, yeah. Bullies usually don't really go anywhere. Sometimes, however, my bully, they really turned their life around, and they were a really nice person. It was very sad when they passed away. But, anyways, today, we're talking about a very prolific bully who wreaked havoc on a small town in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
But, before we get into all that drama, this is the town of Skidmore, Missouri. Let's get some background on our main villain of today's retelling.
Why, without you, I'm not going to give anything away, and I'm not going to take a guess, but I think I know exactly what you're talking about based on what you're giving me.
For the topic of today, or my bully from middle school?
Not your bully from middle school. The topic of today.
Okay. Yeah, you probably know. I think Watcher covered this at some point, a long time, before they were Watcher, when they were BuzzFeed.
Oh, well, they're still at BuzzFeed?
Yeah. So, it's a very old video.
If that's what it is, I know what it is.
And this is such an interesting story, because they don't talk about a lot of the background. They just talk about the ending stuff that happens. Mm-hmm. So, let's
I'm so
get into
excited.
It. So, today we're going to be talking about Ken McElroy. He really, really a horrible person in every single aspect of his life, ever since he was a child.
Fucking douche.
So, Ken McElroy was born in 1934. That's right, guys. He's like a boomer, or silent, or greatest generation. I don't even know. I think that's greatest generation. I'm not sure. Anyways, I think we Googled it in one of the last episodes. So, Ken McElroy was the 15th child born to Tony and Mabel McElroy. They ended up having a 16th child after. So this family stood at a whopping 18 people. That's literally the Duggar family. Sounds very Duggarish. That's literally what I said.
Every single one of my grandparents' families.
Isn't that they were just having children. I don't understand.
Well, my family is a farm family on both sides.
This is a farm family as well.
They had lots of kids.
Yeah. because they needed help on their farm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I said sounds very Duggarish. Stick around and you'll see how similar this statement is. Child endangerment and pedophilia included!
Woo!
So, yeah, warning. We're going to be talking about pedophilia a lot.
Great.
Ken McElroy is a dirty, disgusting bastard. And we're also going to be talking about sexual assault and, like, child pregnancy, teen pregnancy, stuff like that.
If you didn't get that from the pedophilia, though.
Yeah.
Like,
really violent stuff. So, just be prepared if you are triggered by any of that stuff.
We'll trash talk him at the end.
Exactly. So, Tony and Mabel, his parents, were poor migrant farmers who had moved between Kansas and the Ozarks before settling in Skidmore, Missouri.
Okay.
They were sharecroppers and had so many offspring that they likely couldn't give each of them the care and attention that they needed. So basically, like Katie said, they were having kids. They needed help on a farm. Like, these kids were probably working from a really young age. And
in a lot of those instances, back then they believed that, like, right after you had given birth, that you couldn't get pregnant for a long period of time. So they would just continue to have sex and lots of children. And, yeah.
Which you would think, like, after the first or second kid happening right after the first one, that they would realize they're stupid. But, you know, that clearly didn't happen.
Fair, but a lot of them were not educated at all. So they could have just been like, flute. Yeah. But, you know... After child 10, you think 16, you get it.
16? Anyways, so I'd like to make note of a very significant event that happened when he was still very young. Just because we've talked about this a lot with, like, serial killers and, like, psychopaths, sociopaths, stuff like that.
Oh, shit, we talking brain trauma!
We are talking brain trauma. So, this event, I think, likely helped shape the person that Ken McElroy eventually grew up to be.
Okay.
He was riding on a hay wagon on his parents' farm and fell off and hit his head. And the injury was so severe that a steel plate had to be surgically implanted into his head.
God, I do not want to see what a steel plate inserted into someone's head in the 30s looks like, okay?
That's what I'm saying. So...
You know that shit looked like a block.
Oh, probably. Yeah, I don't even know. So, yeah, because they didn't have, like, thin mesh or anything like that. It was probably just, like, a piece of metal. Like, if you put a metal detector to it, it would fucking flip out. So
he did not ever get an MRI.
Probably not. Oh, my God.
He'd be fucking yeeted.
He would be dead. Which, I mean, honestly, at this point... So, we've talked a lot about serial killers. You know, I'm a serial killer fanatic. Many serial killers happened to, like, ones who were studied. They happened to have frontal lobe trauma when they were children. Damage to the neurons or tissues of the front lobe can lead to personality changes, difficulty concentrating or planning, and impulsivity. Additionally, frontal lobe trauma can lead to changes in sexual habits, socialization, and attention, as well as increased risk-taking. So in many cases, frontal lobe damage can turn you into kind of a sociopath.
Yes, for sure.
So, after this, still as a child, McElroy had learned how to scare people into submission. It doesn't say how he learned this, but I'm assuming kind of goes hand in hand with the frontal lobe trauma. Like, he's lacking empathy. His personality probably changed. Now he's like a little evil. So
I will also take it a step farther and say he also probably learned some of those traits from his father. Just based on how a lot of men did their discipline at that time period. But
yeah, it doesn't really say much about how his parents were. All it said was, like, they probably didn't give them enough attention.
I thought his mother's name sounded like a sweetheart, though. So, like, in my head, she is nothing but nice.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I don't know. But
have you ever met a bitch named Mabel?
No. Absolutely not.
See?
Every Mabel that I've seen in media and in real life has been, like, the nicest person ever, so I don't know.
I'm saying she's nice.
Okay.
Unless I find out she touches kids, she's cool.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think that his parents were really that bad, because none of his other siblings did anything horrible.
Alright, so just fuck this guy.
Yeah. And I think he got really fucked up from whatever happened to his brain. So
fair.
He learned how to scare people into submission as a child, and this is something that really sticks with him for the rest of his life, and what makes him probably one of the most prolific bullies in American history.
Okay.
Because this is that guy's shtick. Like, he loves scaring people and making them afraid to do basically anything. So, by the age of 15... McElroy was still illiterate and ended up dropping out of school in the 8th grade, which most people are about 13 in 8th grade, so let that sink in a little bit. He probably stayed back a lot.
I don't want to compare it to my family any longer, but my grandfather also dropped out in 8th grade.
Well, I think that was probably pretty common.
He had to support the family, so...
Yeah, but this, he literally just could not comprehend anything, and like, that's basically what it said, like, difficulty concentrating, difficulty planning, changes in attention span, stuff like that. Yep. Like, he probably just was that fucked up. So,
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
I have to fix these pictures real quick.
Fix those pics. Am I supposed to open this to look at pictures?
Yes, open it now. So, actually, wait a second. Let me tell you this. So, after dropping out of school, Ken quickly established a local reputation as a cattle rustler, small-time thief, and womanizer.
Cool.
Katie, I have included a picture of said womanizer below. And I'll let you have a moment to just take a look. One is when he was... I don't know how old he is, but he's a child. And then one when he was, like, 30 to 40 years old.
I mean, he don't do it for me. But maybe also, for somebody.
This if dude is, like,
partially
gigantic.
blind. And that's not hate on any of the blind people, but, like, if there's someone who's not going to judge based on appearances, it's the blind folk.
And I honestly think he has the title of a womanizer because I think it was, like, locker room talk, you know? Gotcha. This guy, he's a womanizer, he's been with so many women. But I think a lot of the times he probably took it by force.
That and just inflating everything, for sure.
No, I think he definitely was raping people a lot.
Oh, great dude.
Because that's basically his whole memo.
I don't know why I'm over here still trying to give him the benefit of the fucking doubt.
Don't.
I think it's just because he's still, like, a kid.
He was fucked up forever. I don't know. He's fucked up. So... I don't really know where to start with this tale, because this one is just a doozy.
Just rip that fucking Band-Aid off, like, I don't even know.
This guy was very mentally ill.
Great.
And McElroy ended up fathering more than 10 children, basically all with different women.
Cute.
And a lot of it I don't think was consensual, or... it was quote-unquote consensual, and he had just manipulated them because they were very young girls.
That's fitting for the time, so.
So, let's chat a little bit about his first 2 wives, as well as some of the people he knocked up, which are wild. And then go into the, like, this is the big story, the big impactful things that really lead up to... why Skidmore, Missouri is called the town where no one knew a thing.
All right.
And it's going to get batshit crazy. I'm going to tell you that. Starting now. Expect batshit. Okay? So, McElroy married for the first time at age 18 in 1952. Okay, that's pretty normal. He spent time in Denver with his new bride, Aleda. But returned to Missouri because he couldn't hold a job.
Of course he couldn't.
During his 20s, Elroy became quote-unquote famous among his hunting buddies for his eye for what he called quote-unquote young meat.
Ew.
Adolescent girls. Basically, they're like, hey, yeah, our buddy, he really likes them young. Oh, man, that guy, he likes them young. Like,
because that's not fucking gross.
They're gross. And now, just keep in mind, he has these little hunting buddies that stick up for his pedophilic actions, and just have that in the back of your head, because it'll come back.
Okay.
So, he bedded a series of teenagers, sometimes finding his quarry by hanging out at junior high school playgrounds.
What the fuck?
He would befriend adolescent boys, and basically be like, you pretend to date her, and she'll come and hang out with me.
I hate everything about that.
Yeah, so he typically preyed upon children from poor, uneducated families, which is very similar to his family and how he grew up, so he's probably very mentally stunted. Mm-hmm. He charmed girls, quote-unquote, with dime store gifts and rides in his truck. So he was basically buying them, like, dollar store shit. And, like, hey, you want to ride in my truck? I got a truck. So, several of his victims had obviously become pregnant because he's fucking children. And McElroy used payoffs and threats to basically sweep the parents' harsh feelings towards the situation under the rug. So the parents would ultimately find out, and he'd be like, I'm gonna murder you if you tell anyone. Or he'd be like, I'm gonna give you $100 if you let me keep fucking your kid.
Oh my god.
So, McElroy, quote-unquote, dumped Aleda after a few years and married a 15-year-old girl, Shannon. So at this point, he's 20-something, marrying a 15-year-old girl, which is already disgusting, but it gets worse. So, with Sharon pregnant, McElroy began romancing a 13-year-old girl named Sally. When she balked at sex because she's 13 years old, he threatened to kill her father and beat her up.
Oh my god.
She finally was like, okay, don't kill my father, stop beating me up, and then moved in with him and Shannon. So at this point...
I'm sorry, what?
Yes. At this point, McElroy had his first child harem.
I fucking hate this man.
This guy is disgusting. And they didn't talk about this in BuzzFeed Unsolved. They talked about everything he did after this. And everything he did before what ultimately led to his demise was disgusting.
I hate it.
The teenagers that he had roped into this harem and was basically holding them against their will and manipulating them, they gave birth to a total of 7 of his offspring.
What the actual...
Shannon had children in 1961, 63, 64, and 65. And Sally had children in 61, 63, and 64.
And, like, no one had a fucking problem with this?
They did, but he literally threatened to murder them or paid them off. Because this is his whole thing. He loves threatening people into submitting to letting him do whatever he wants to do. He thinks that he is above the law. He thinks he is up on a higher pedestal than all of the people around him. So, in late 1964... Sharon, again pregnant, and both young women already have newborns. McElroy caught feelings for another girl. Alice, who is a 15-year-old girl from St. Joseph, Missouri, which is 50 miles south of Skidmore. In 1964, he is basically hunting for children brides.
Yeah, it seems like it.
50 miles? That's like hour or two away. He's going out of his way to find these girls. I don't know.
Like, Tinder doesn't even recommend that you set your distance that far.
Tinder also doesn't recommend dating children or fucking children. So this guy is
I thought that was
up.
implied, so I wasn't gonna say that.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying everything this guy is doing is with malicious intent and not good.
Yes.
So he ended up abandoning the first two girls and their children and started living with Alice. He was like, okay, I'm done with these girls. I'm Leonardo DiCaprioing the situation.
No!
I'm out of here. You're too old. I'm going with Alice.
I can't believe you just said that about Leo.
Sorry. He's basically
you made a comparison between this douchebag and Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm sorry. That's all I'm saying about that. Leonardo DiCaprio, even though they're legal, that doesn't make it okay. Thank you. I rest my case. I'm just saying. So, I'm fired up at this point.
I can tell.
So, Alice started churning out more babies for him.
No.
And at one point, she's joined in the bedroom and the maternity ward in the early 1970s by Marcia, yet another of McElroy's lovers.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't.
So, according to a lot of the victims' stories, he basically beat every woman that he was intimate with. And one would later tell Henry and McLean that McElroy's sex tended to be violent and demeaning. And I think Henry and McLean is an author, and he might have written a book about this or something.
Okay.
So, as a young man, we're going to talk about how, quote-unquote, handsome he was, okay? So, McElroy was apparently muscular and fairly handsome. I don't see it in the pictures, but whatever.
I didn't see it.
His dark hair and sideburns and rather fine features gave him the vaguest resemblance to Elvis Presley, who everyone had hots for at this time.
I'm still looking at the fucking pictures, and no.
We're missing, like, a whole decade in between like, a whole decade or two, so, like, maybe at some point, I don't know. But he had a lot of money and supplies and stuff like that because he was, like, rustling profits off of people. He was, like, literally, like, a slumlord. Yeah. Like, by 1970, McElroy got fat and was ugly, and he also wasn't as smart as he thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Good.
So, he carried himself like this big, tough guy, but only when he was armed with a gun or a knife. Like, This man is self-conscious in some way that he doesn't want to show people, but no one had ever seen him throw a punch except at a woman. So this guy is just the asshole of assholes.
Yeah.
He had his body covered with awful amateur's tattoos that said Mom, Ken, Love, Joan, Oleda, a dagger. And, like, he had a fupa going on, wide set eyes, deep set brow. Like, he looked like Ooga Booga, like Unga Bunga. He's ugly. He's horrible. He thought his shit don't stink. He looked like a piece of shit. He acted like it. Whatever. Here we go. So this is where he meets his last wife. He is 35 years old. He is a grown-ass man. And he meets Trina McLeod in 1969 when she was 12 years old.
I'm gonna throw up.
McElroy, this is that age, she should be his daughter. Just saying. She could be his daughter. So, well, technically, no, you'd be pretty young. But,
well, with how he picks
what's that, like 17 he would have had her? If she was 12 now?
Yeah, but that clearly didn't stop him.
Yeah, so he went to extraordinary lengths to spend time with this young, blonde, like, quote-unquote, beautiful little girl. And he, again, had paid a boy her age to basically masquerade as her boyfriend, as her date. And the boy would pick her up at home, deliver her to McElroy, and then escort her home when he was finished with her. And he had raped McCloud repeatedly.
I also want to know who these little fucking shits are
that just
he's
went with it.
Paying.
I don't know.
Pretend. Because
it's fucked up. It's really fucked up. Yeah. So, but then you think of John Wayne Gacy, how he roped those like young teenagers into like doing stuff for him and like completely manipulated them. There's probably some type of manipulation going on, money, stuff like that. He's, like I said, he preys upon poor, uneducated people. Like, he's probably like, hey, I know you need money. If you want to help me out, I'll give you a 50, you know?
Yeah.
Which is gross. But I don't necessarily think that the kids involved had ill intent or really knew what was going on. I don't know.
It just makes me unhappy.
Yeah. So, apparently, Trina would often arrive to school on the bus, but then not even go into school and go over to McElroy, who was waiting in his truck just off school grounds. So she was, like, going off with him. At this point, she was like, I don't care about school. So, and thinking about it, in these types of situations, where it's an older person manipulating a young child, they're gonna tell them, oh, this is cool to be dating an older guy, like, blah, 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 you know? So she doesn't know. She doesn't understand. She's being completely manipulated. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
So the relationship was basically an open secret.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, McElroy had a well-established reputation as a pedophile.
Yeah.
Even though he had never been held accountable. And school officials, this is what really gets me, school officials would later acknowledge that they had heard the rumors, but did not take action. It's gross.
Yeah.
And this is in, like, the 70s. 60s and 70s. It's sad. So, predictably, since he's raping this poor girl, Trina turned up pregnant just after the beginning of 9th grade. So she dropped out of school at age 14 and moved in with McElroy and Alice, replacing Marcia in the harem. So they kicked Marcia out.
You know, good for Marcia.
Yeah, I'd like to know what happened to these poor young women, young girls who were just made to pop out like 500 babies and then kicked out to the street with their children. He didn't care about his children. He only cared about one of his children because the government took them away.
Oh my god.
And he is above the government in his eyes.
Oh,
we'll
yes,
talk
of
about
course.
that. So, neither Trina nor Alice was very happy with the arrangement at all. And the trio argued frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And Trina would obviously talk about this later on and say that McElroy would beat them both all the time. So this guy is just very violent. So, 16 days after Trina gave birth to a son, she and Alice fled with their children, hoping to find a haven with Trina's mother and stepfather. So they ran away to go to Trina's house, basically, and be like, hey, help us. Do you even know what's going on? Like, this is what's been happening. This is horrible, and please help us. But McElroy tracked them down within hours, and at gunpoint, forced them back home. So this is where we start this is the snowball. This is where the snowball is starting to form in the town of Skidmore. So we have this guy who's kind of been hopping around, grabbing these girls from random places, bringing them back, keeping them around for a little bit, and then kicking them out. And now we have this girl, and she's going out into the community and asking for help. And this is where the issues in the community start being more prominent.
Okay.
So, 16 days after Trina gave birth to a son. Oh, sorry, I already read that. Sorry. McElroy, as soon as he brought them back home, first beat Alice savagely. And then he held a rifle on Trina and forced her to strip and perform demeaning sex acts. And next, he and Trina drove over to her mother and stepfather's house. The couple was away for the afternoon. McElroy went inside with a can of gasoline and a rifle. He burned down their house and shot their dog.
No!
And you know what's even crazier? He ended up doing that twice.
I'm sorry, what?
So, this whole thing, back and forth, Trina, escaping, going to her parents' house, being dragged back, him going over, burning their house, setting their house on fire, and killing their dog. He did that another time after that. They got a new dog and started rebuilding the damaged parts of their fucking house. And he went back and did the same thing again and shot their brand new dog.
I fucking can't. I don't even know what to say.
This guy has a control problem. These are his property that are escaping him. You're not allowed to have my property. I'm going to destroy your property so you know what it feels like when my property is taken away from me. So, 2 days after his rampage, literal rampage, Trina took her son to see a doctor in Mound City, Missouri. The teenager was very jumpy and frightened, rightfully so. And the doctor finally, pulled the story, what the hell is going on? Why are you so freaked out? Why do you have this little baby and you're, 12? So he obviously heard the story and was like, holy shit, that is fucked up. And he notified juvenile and social welfare authorities. And the baby was placed in foster care. More on that in a second. And Trina was tranquilized and hospitalized, primarily to keep her safe from McElroy. Because at this point, she is tweaking. She is freaking the fuck out. I don't know if she went to see the doctor without telling him. Because, he doesn't take this very well.
Okay.
So, based on the story that Trina told the authorities, McElroy was finally indicted of something. In June of 1973, he was indicted for arson, assault, and statutory rape. Finally, right?
Good, yeah.
So he was arrested, booked, but then arraigned and released on $2,500 bail.
Why?
His first appointment after his release was with Dick McFadden, his Kansas City lawyer. He arrived with a bag of cash and placed $15,000 on the lawyer's desk. Under their long-standing agreement, McElroy paid McFadden $5,000 cash per felony. So, McFadden told McElroy the charges would be difficult to beat, especially if Trina, victim of the rape and eyewitness to the arson, testified against him. Trina and her baby had been secreted into foster care / safe house in Maryville, but nothing was secret from Ken McElroy. So he has a very shady lawyer helping him. This guy, all he cares about is the cash. He will do anything to get you released and have your charges dropped, depending on how much money you give him. This guy is a piece of shit. And he also deserves what happened to McElroy, but I don't know what happened to this guy. So.
Hopefully something awful.
McElroy, of course, found where Trina and her baby were safely hidden. which is very unfortunate. He sat outside the foster home for hours, staring at it. And he told the foster family that he would trade, quote unquote, girl for girl to get his child back. Because he found out where the foster family's biological daughter went to school and what bus she rode.
Oh my God.
So he was like, I'm going to kidnap your daughter if you don't give me my daughter.
Oh.
I'll trade you back your daughter that I will steal if you give me my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this guy fucked. So they're like, no. And then additional charges were filed against McElroy because people are finally speaking out against him. So the prosecutor piled on 8 additional felony molestation charges after collecting evidence from Trina about what happened with McElroy at St. Joseph Motel over 3 years, like when she was a child and beginning when she was 13. And then, of course, the lawyer of all lawyers, McFadden went to work.
Of course he did.
He split the charges into 2 separate trials and sought changes of venue for each. So, basically, in lawyer terms, the longer you can delay a hearing, the easier it is to basically get, what's the word called? Where they just kind of, like, drop it. They're like, whatever. I can't think of the word. So...
a false trial, or... I know it's not a false trial, but, like, it's something along those lines, right?
It's like when... I can't think of the word for, like, getting your charges dropped. No. It's not arraigned, but it's something like that.
Dismissed?
Basically, yeah. Your case will be dismissed because it's so hard to even meet for it. So, this is his strategy. He's trying to make it as hard as possible to get him convicted. Trial dates were set, reset, set again. And after a year had passed, they still, like, haven't done anything. And Trina was like, okay, foster family, you've helped me the best you can. I'm leaving, and I'm gonna go live with my grandmother. And the family was, like, obviously super suspicious because she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go, bye. So they're like, okay, well, we can't hold her against her will, so I guess we're just gonna have to let her go. So, not even a month later, McElroy goes into his favorite lawyer's office, and he asks, well, what happens if I marry Trina? So, McElroy was still married to his second wife, Sharon, even though they hadn't lived together for years. And all of a sudden, she happened to turn up into McFadden's office the next day seeking a divorce.
Of course she did.
And McFadden arranged a quick dissolution. So, at the age of 15, her mother, Trina's mother, signed the required affidavit authorizing the marriage because her house was fucking burned down by McElroy and she had no fucking choice. The lawyer found an aged judge, an old-ass motherfucker, in a small Missouri town who performed the ceremony on the same day that Trina's mother signed the affidavit. McFadden was the witness to the wedding. So McFadden is also probably a pedophile and disgusting person.
Yeah.
He is perpetuating the marriage of a 15-year-old girl to a 37-year-old man.
That's gross.
Yeah. In the fucking 70s, too.
Yeah.
So the lawyer placed a gloating phone call to inform the prosecutor that his only witness against McElroy was now the man's wife, and therefore could not be compelled to testify against him.
Yep.
Technically, the prosecution could have gone forward, but it was basically a hopeless cause now, or a hopeless case, because that's, like, his wife, and for some reason women were still property in the 1970s. I don't know.
Yep.
So eventually all the charges were dropped and they got what they wanted. McElroy, Trina, and Alice resumed their miserable life together as a throuple.
Mm-hmm.
So on July 27th, 1976, Skidmore farmer Romaine Henry said, McElroy shot him twice with a shotgun after Henry challenged him for shooting weapons on Henry's property. So they just continued living, and McElroy just was doing shit around town because he knew he could do shit and get away with it. So he's going on other people's property and shooting off his gun for fun.
Great.
To scare people. And this one guy stood up and was like, hey, stop shooting fucking guns on my property.
Uh-huh.
And McElroy was charged with assault with intent to kill. And McElroy was like, nah, I wasn't even there. And as the case, of course, dragged on without a court date, Henry said McElroy had parked outside his home at least 100 times.
Oh my fucking God.
At the trial, his two little hunter friends, who had made him quote-unquote famous for liking children, had actually testified that they were with McElroy the day of the shooting away from Henry's property. Yeah, so the same guys who thinks he's awesome for being a disgusting pedophile are now testifying for him in court to get charges dropped of him trying to murder people.
Sounds about right.
He really hangs out with some super wonderful, like, wholehearted, golden, beautiful people.
I mean, they sound like stand-up American citizens, so...
So, McElroy was obviously acquitted because testimonies are everything for some reason. And that's the word I was looking for, was acquitted, by the way.
Ah, yes.
So, everyone in Skidmore basically had their jaws ripped off their fucking heads over that verdict because they're dropping. They're like, what the hell? This guy just got away with trying to murder someone because two people said he was with him somewhere?
Yeah.
They're like, what? And McElroy, of course, the person he is, he went around town bragging that he might as well have killed Henry because I could have just gotten away with murder and I could basically do anything at this point. And a couple of months later, Henry was on his tractor during the fall harvest when he saw a truck parked at the edge of the field he was working.
Oh, no.
And as he got closer, he could see it was McElroy's truck. And his bulky figure was crouched over a gate. He was holding a rifle and pointing it at the tractor. Even over the loud noise of his tractor engine, he heard the sound of a gunshot. And then McElroy just got up, walked to his truck, threw the weapon in the rifle rack in the back of his truck, and drove off. That was his that was him delivering his closing statement to Henry. Like, I could kill you if I wanted to. That's what he was saying. He didn't kill him. But,
great.
Bruh. So, there was no retaliation.
I literally cannot wait till somebody fucking murders this man.
Just wait, because this is crazy. So, there was no retaliation. Henry was a married man with 3 children, but people were gossiping around town saying that the mysterious shooting had to do something about a woman. It had to be something about a woman. So they're trying to, I don't know, people are like, we have no clue why the fuck this guy is doing this. Like, maybe there's another woman involved. We have no clue. So, I have no clue why he was even targeting this guy. I think he was just trying to show people that he's a force to be reckoned with. Like, he can basically do what he wants. So, this is the final thing that really sets off the series of events that happens to Ken McElroy. So, it started with an argument about a 10 10-cent piece of candy.
Okay.
On the afternoon of April 25th, 1980, several of McElroy's children stopped in the B&B grocery store in Skidmore to buy candy.
Mm-hmm.
And due to some type of confusion at the cash register, one of the younger children began walking out of the store with candy in her hand, and it hadn't been paid for, which could have been a complete accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the clerk hollered after the children, like, hey, don't steal that candy, you didn't pay for it. Yeah. The oldest among them, probably taking off after their father, went flush with anger or humiliation, took the candy from her sister, who had broken out crying, and tossed it on a rack as she stormed out. Seconds later, an older sister marched into the store and declared, "Nobody accuses my little sister of stealing." So they all got fucking anger issues. I don't even know. So,
yeah.
The owners of this store, Bo and Lois Bowenkamp, they tried to resolve the disagreement through discussion. Like, hey, we weren't trying to be mean. We just want to make sure that they're paying for it. You know, it's 10 cents. So,
God forbid they protect their business.
Basically, McElroy's family was, like, batshit crazy. And the older daughter was like, me and my family, we're never shopping here again. And Lois was like, okay, little bitch, you're no longer welcome here in the store. Because they're being little dickheads. So, predictably, about 20 minutes later, Ken McElroy arrives because he thinks that he has to be involved in literally fucking everything and throw his dick around for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
He stepped into the store with a pocket knife in his right hand. And behind him came Trina, whatever, who spewed obscenities at Lois and threatened to, quote-unquote, whip her ass. So, Trina, at this point, she's completely manipulated by Ken. She is an evil little person. Yeah. So, Bowenkamp tried to explain what happened. That no one had accused the children of stealing, but the older girl had gotten flustered when the clerk pointed out that the piece of candy had not been purchased. And they seemed to calm down a little bit. And so he's like, yeah, let me get a pack of Camels. And Bowenkamp, who had a bit of a stubborn streak, declined, saying that the family had been barred from the store because they're acting like literal children. That evening, McElroy sat in his truck outside the store and stared, because that's his favorite thing to do, is just be a little menacing, ominous figure outside of a building and stare at you and try to scare you. So, after closing, the Bowenkamps retired to their home at the edge of town, only to find McElroy's truck crawling past their home over and over and over. So he's just going back and forth in front of their house, like, trying to freak them out.
Oh my god.
So,
I'd be killed by this man. Because I'd be like, you got a fucking problem?
I don't know what I would do in this situation. I would like to think that I would stand my ground, but this guy is huge and evil and very used to committing acts of violence on people. So, yeah. I don't know what I would do. Because
sometimes I just can't help myself.
I don't normally hurt people or yell at people. So, anyways.
I'm not afraid to stand up for people, so.
So at this point, Lois is like, I'm calling the cops. So yes, she called the deputy sheriff that she knew, and he was like, oh, don't worry about it. He won't do nothing. A few days later, McElroy offered to give Lois $100 if she would challenge Trina to a quote-unquote street fight to settle their dispute. And she was like, no, that's a fucking stupid-ass idea. And then McElroy and Trina showed up outside the Bowenkamp home the next day as though waiting for her to come out and fight. Because these people are stupid and crazy.
Literally.
And she called the police again. Because she's like, what the fuck? And McElroy, of course, had a police scanner in his truck and pulled away before the state trooper and deputy sheriff arrived. my God. So she asked about filing a complaint because she's like, this guy won't leave us the fuck alone because this kid stole candy and now they're all acting like assholes. So McElroy was like, or the lawman came to their house after they're like, can we file a complaint? And he's like, McElroy, he's in his legal rights. There was nothing that we can do, really. Like, he could totally go past your house about 500 million times and stand outside your house trying to get his child wife to fight the shit out of you. Like, that's legal. That's normal. No.
Why you got a problem with it? He's a stand-up guy. What murder?
So... yeah, I don't even know what they were. They were probably afraid of him because that is totally illegal. That is stalking. That requires, like, a fucking restraining order. Like, yeah, that's fucked up. So, of course,
it's
Ken
willful
McElroy,
intimidation, like.
Literally. So... his favorite thing, like, he never leaves a conflict unfinished. He always has to have the last say because he's all about power and being, one step ahead of you, being on a higher pedestal. Whether with family, friends, or foes, he would always have the last word. So, understanding this, Lois and Bo were rightfully terrified that this man was going to come after them again.
Mm-hmm.
So... They waited, basically, for him to attack them.
Yep.
Like, freaked out every single time the doorbell at the store jangled, every time they heard rubber tires outside of their home, and they knew that, at some point, McElroy would just completely erupt and explode. So.
I feel so bad for these people.
Yeah, this man is a terror to the town of Skidmore, Missouri. On the night of May 29th, a month after the candy incident, McElroy and Trina once again parked outside the Bowenkamp home. As Lois Bowenkamp watched through a window, Ken McElroy walked to the front of the truck holding a shotgun. He aimed at the house, raised the barrel slightly in the sky, and fired 2 shots. So, at this point, he is just going to their house and shooting off a gun.
Yeah.
He's planning to murder someone.
Yeah.
He intends to harm them. So, all he does, like usual, he shoots off his gun and then calmly returns to his truck and drives off. Mm-hmm. 30 minutes later, he drove by again and fired another shot. So, the next morning, Lois is like, I'm driving to the fucking Nottoway County Sheriff's Office in Maryville and reporting this because nobody's fucking helping me. And Sheriff Roger Kronk told her that he'd file a report that would be reviewed by the county prosecutor.
Sure, and he would.
He suggested that the couple keep an eye on McElroy, which obviously made her fucking laugh because he's keeping an eye on them very closely.
Yeah.
So, of course, Kronk did not file a report. He did not interview McElroy. He did not seek witnesses. He did nothing. All of these people know who McElroy is and are refusing to do anything about it because they are afraid of him. So,
a bunch of fucking losers.
Exactly. 2 nights later, McElroy returned and fired more gunshots outside the Bowenkamp home. They're, like, hunkered down inside, and they felt like they were on their own because nobody's helping them. They're being harassed, intimidated, threatened, and even assaulted, according to definitions in the Missouri law. But law enforcement they refrained from helping them after each incident.
Yeah.
They kept saying, McElroy was within his rights. You should watch him carefully. And it has to be noted at this point.
Can't watch him any fucking carefuler.
Yeah. At this point, also, Skidmore citizens, most of whom were very well aware of the harassment, also did nothing to help the Bowenkamps because... Shocker. Everyone's terrified. And the Bowenkamps, they're relatively new to town. They had only gotten here like 8 years before. Most of these people had been there their entire lives.
Yeah.
Bowenkamp, he was like almost 70 and was like going into retirement phase. Like, he's old. He's 6'5", but he's like quiet, demure, like very calm guy. And his wife is like 20 years younger, and she was a native of Skidmore. So he moved in. And she could be very feisty and outspoken. That's kind of what caused the whole issue in the first place, because they're crazy, but she also stood up for herself.
Yep. As she should.
Yeah. So on the evening of July 8th, 1980, Bo drove down to the store after hours to meet a repairman to fix their air conditioner. And as he waited, Bowenkamp used a meat knife to cut up some cardboard boxes near the entrance of the store. And McElroy suddenly appeared outside the back door. And after a brief exchange, Bowenkamp turned away. And he's like, no, go away. And when he turned back around, McElroy was pointing a double-barrel shotgun at him. Yeah. The elderly man made a move to run away as McElroy pulled the trigger. And Bo folded and fell into a heap. A few moments later, a boy found Bowenkamp. His head, neck, and torso completely drenched in blood. Sirens screamed to the scene. And among the first to arrive was Bruce Richards, with an S, a Maryville cop. And he leaned over to Bowenkamp and was like, "Who shot you?" Because
Who the fuck do you think?
Bowenkamp's still alive. He fucking, I don't know what happened. He somehow survives this.
Yeah, because he's a fucking G.
And of course he replies, "Ken McElroy." He's like, "Get that motherfucker." So, an officer finally arrested him. Again. Finally did something. A few hours after the shooting. Of course, McElroy, "I don't know nothing. I wasn't there. I didn't do it." And he called his wonderful Kansas City lawyer and was out on a $30,000 bond the next morning. And,
I'm getting real fucking sick of this dude.
That night, he and Trina were back in the D&G Tavern having some beers. And, I think a lot of the people in this area were also feeling the same as you, Katie. They're getting real fucking sick of Ken McElroy's shit.
All I'm saying is, if I was back then, I'd probably take my chances. And just fucking go for it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I gotcha. I'm with you. So Bo spent 10 days in the hospital for a gunshot wound to the neck.
Oh my gosh.
But he lived. The boy who lived. The elderly man who lived. Bowenkamp, the champ. So over the ensuing weeks, McElroy kept intimidating him. And when a minister went to comfort the Bowenkamps, one of the few who dared offer this family sympathy. Oh my god.
He shows up with a violin.
Well, he's a minister, so he shows up like, "God is great. God is good." So, yeah, so this minister was like, "I'm just trying to be nice to this family. This guy was, like, horribly wounded." And after that, he began getting threatening phone calls. In between explicitives, the minister knew to be what? Oh, McElroy was basically calling this man and, like, harassing him, saying, "Mind your business, you stupid fucking fuck." And just, like, sending them these horrible voicemails and shit. I don't even know. So he's, like, harassing anybody who's involved in anything having to do with McElroy being a bad dude. So...
I love that he's just fucking threatening, like, a priest.
Yeah, he's threatening literally anyone who dares to stick up for or provide any type of empathy towards the people that he is fucking up the lives of.
Well,
this man is 70
honestly.
years old, getting shot in the fucking neck. Like, what the hell? Over a 10-cent piece of candy. It's
so fucking ridiculous.
He's so stupid. Ken McElroy is stupid as fuck. So, his, like, huge plan for the Bowen camps was to basically isolate his victims and cut them off from any type of sympathy from other people.
Yeah.
So, a measure of their isolation can be seen in pleading letters that Lois wrote begging the governor, attorney general, and state legislators to, like, intercede and, like, come, like, stick up for these people in this fucking area who are being bullied by this horrible man. And she wrote, "Are we to live in fear for the rest of our lives? Please help us see justice done." In the meantime, McElroy had begun to tell anyone who would listen to Bo Bowen Camp that basically Bo was, like, threatening to hurt Ken McElroy with a butcher knife, and Ken fired the gun in self-defense, which clearly did not happen. If anybody knew Bo Bowen Camp, he was a very chill dude and would not threaten anyone with a butcher knife. Because, one, he didn't have a butcher knife. He had a small meat knife, which I guess could be considered a butcher knife, but no. Ken McElroy was totally blowing it out of proportion and lying. So, the scenario obviously made no sense. Bowen Camp was harmless and docile, and he did admit that he was holding a knife when he was shot, but only because he was cutting up the boxes. Yep. And Ken obviously didn't stop his intimidation there with just the victims and the minister. One night, he decided to confront the part-time town marshal, David Dunbar. He asked Dunbar, who at this point is an untrained law enforcement officer who's paid like $240 a month.
Yep.
He asked, "Would you testify against me in the Bowen Camp case?" And Dunbar was like, "I might have to, because you shot someone." And he, Ken's like, "I'll kill anybody who would put me in jail." He's such a douche. So, the bully then pulled a shotgun out of his truck and pointed it at Dunbar. Yeah. The town cop managed to calm down McElroy, and Dunbar went to his car and radioed the sheriff's office to alert them of the threat. Dunbar later said he got this response: "Don't provoke him. Nothing we can do. Keep an eye on him."
Oh, there's a couple things you could do.
You could fucking shoot him, because he's holding a gun to you. Anyways, yeah, so the cops are very blatantly not helping anyone. Not even the other cops.
Yeah, they were like, you're on your
sorry
own.
About that, bud. If you get shot, sorry. So, when the Skidmore Town Hall opened for business Monday morning, Dunbar walked in and turned in his badge, because as a family man, he decided he was not going to jeopardize his life over a job that paid less than $3,000 a year, which worked, because
fucking go.
He was like, "I'm particularly leaving because the county authorizes..." Oh, sorry. He said, "I'm leaving specifically because the county authorities were not going to support me. They were just going to let me get shot. So, fuck that noise. I'm out of here."
You go, bro.
So, later came to light that McElroy had placed threatening phone calls to the home of the state trooper who had arrested him, Richard Stratton. And when the trooper was at work, McElroy slowed down past his house, much to the terror of Stratton's wife. So he, at this point, is threatening multiple authority figures, police, state troopers, anyone at this point. He is above the law. So far so that he can threaten to murder a police officer.
Yep.
Dunbar and Stratton thus got a taste of the treatment. Oh my god. Dunbar and Stratton finally got a taste of the treatment that the Bowen camps, Roman Henry, Trina's parents, and anyone else who had ever crossed Ken McElroy over the years. They're finally starting to understand that Ken is literally this evil human who will do whatever he wants. Whatever he wants.
Yeah. Welcome to the fucking show.
As usual, Attorney McFadden used every legal maneuver he could to delay the trial, and he got a change of venue to Bethany, Missouri, 75 miles east of Skidmore, but the delays finally came to an end. And on June 25th, 1981, the trial began. Finally.
You know, I wish that this man is rotting in, like, the worst fucking place possible. The lawyer.
Just wait. Oh, yeah, I don't know about him. I don't know. Knowing how life works sometimes, who knows?
True.
So, David Baird was a young prosecutor, 3 years out of law school, and presented a pretty competent case. The issue couldn't have been any simpler. Bo Bowenkamp said McElroy assaulted him with a shotgun. McElroy said he fired in self-defense when Bowenkamp threatened him with a knife. Mm-hmm. The victim was the primary prosecution witness, the accused the main defense witness. As in the Romaine, I guess his name's Romaine or Roman, I really can't tell. It has an E at the end, so I'm going to say Romaine Henry trial. McElroy dredged someone from his hunting circle who testified that she, interesting, happened to pass along Main Street in Skidmore at the very moment of the shooting. She just happened to be there.
Of course she did.
And she said she saw Bowenkamp lunge at McElroy, and she could not explain why it took her 9 months to finally come forward with this information. She just remembered after almost a year.
Oh, sure.
And after the closing statements from the lawyers, the jury quickly voted to convict McElroy of assault.
Yeah.
Finally, something sticking. They had several options, both for the specific charge and the sentence, up to life in prison. But under Missouri law of that era, the jurors were given no information about McElroy's patterns of behavior since he had a clean rap sheet despite nearly 24 failed criminal charges. Jurors voted for second-degree assault. Some lobbied for a 4-year sentence, others favored 2 years, and they settled on 2. So, after the conviction was announced, the judge continued McElroy's bail and ordered him released, pending a routine 25-day appeal window. And once again, McElroy was back on the loose in Skidmore, Missouri. So, we're finally getting to the end of it, guys. 2 more pages. I swear we're almost done. It is blazing hot in here. I am dripping sweat. I'm stumbling over my words because I'm so overheated. It's happening.
You're doing great.
We are 1 hour and almost 20 minutes in. Okay? We can do this. So 4 days after his conviction, Ken McElroy strolled into D&G Tavern, his favorite place ever, carrying an M1 assault rifle.
Oh!
Complete with a sharpened bayonet.
Who the fuck does he think he is?
And he was like, I'm looking to sell this gun. Bam! He sat down at the bar beside Trina, and had an evil smile on his face. And he began a description of how he would use the gun to finish off the job he started on Bo Bowenkamp. He took a clip from his pocket and clicked it into the magazine. He chambered a slug and stood up to demonstrate his plan. Ken McElroy said he would shoot the old man in the head, then carve him up like a turkey with the bayonet. Oh,
sure he would.
So this display prompted Pete Ward, a retired farmer, to storm out of the bar. He rallied his sons and a few others, who vowed to set up a watch to protect the Bowenkamps and their property.
Go, Pete.
Literally, go, Pete is the savior of this story. Like, he starts this movement okay, to finally protect these people who are being harassed. So, Ward reported the incident to authorities and joined 3 other witnesses from the bar in signing an affidavit of what they had witnessed. Prosecutor Baird used the document in an attempt to revoke McElroy's bail and get him in jail right away. Mm-hmm. This should have been an urgent court matter because this dude has an assault rifle.
Yeah.
And is walking around with it, threatening to murder people.
Nah, that's just a regular Tuesday.
A man who was convicted of assault, sitting in a public place, demonstrating with a loaded rifle how he was gonna murder the very same victim. And the authorities could have been like, okay, it's time, buddy, let's go the fuck back to jail and go in front of a judge with fresh allegations. But instead, the judge, the prosecutor, and Richard McFadden decided that July 10, 5 days later, would be soon enough for a hearing.
I'm done.
Yeah. So, the people of Skidmore prepared to travel en masse to the hearing set before the trial judge in Bethany to oppose McElroy's continued freedom. The plan was to meet at the Skidmore and Legion Hall in the morning of the hearing and travel to Bethany as one. They are a crowd. They are a group of people that are planning to go to the hearing because they are pissed off that this man has completely taken advantage of this town. There are 440 people living here, and he is affecting a majority of them. And they're pissed off, and they don't want to take it anymore. On July 10th, the town woke to news that the hearing had been postponed until July 20th because McFadden had a conflict. And the lawyer would later say that he called McElroy and advised him to stay out of Skidmore in the interim. And even though he said this, McElroy chose not to take his advice, which
of course he didn't.
Ends up biting him in the ass. So, on the morning of July 10th, 1981, the day that it all ends, God, yes. Thank God, the townspeople meet at Legion Hall in the center of town with Nottoway County Sheriff Dan Estes to discuss how to protect themselves. They're like, how can we even do anything in this town without this guy harassing us? What can we do? Let's ask the sheriff, what is a legal thing that we can do? So, during the meeting, McElroy arrived at D&G Tavern with Trina, and as he sat drinking at the bar, word got back to the men at Legion Hall that he was in town. Sheriff Estes instructed the assembled group not to get in a direct confrontation with McElroy, but instead seriously consider forming a neighborhood watch program. He was like, yeah, neighborhood watch? Yeah, do that, sure. But then Estes specifically told the whole group, I'm gonna go out of town today. In my police cruiser, I'm gonna just leave town. Totally not suspicious at all. And so, as the sheriff left town and no other authority figures were here, the citizens at the meeting decided to go to the tavern en masse. The bar soon filled completely, and after McElroy finished his drinks, he purchased a 6-pack of beer, left the bar, and entered his pickup truck. So this gigantic group of people walked into the bar that he was drinking at and stood around him until he was done. Imagine
They're like, how do you like it, fucker?
Imagine the feeling he felt when he finally got what was coming to him. So, while sitting in his truck, McElroy was all of a sudden shot at several times by multiple different people. And he was hit twice. One by a centerfire rifle and one by a .22 rimfire rifle. In all, there were 46 potential witnesses to the shooting, including Trina McElroy, who was in the truck with her husband when he was shot. Nobody called for an ambulance.
I wouldn't.
When it became immediately clear that witnesses would be completely, like, non-vocal, like, to talk about what they might have seen.
Mm-hmm.
A task force of 23 officers from 6 law enforcement agencies in the Northwest Missouri were called to Skidmore. They brought in a task force to figure out who might have shot him. And they compiled a list of 35 men who were definitively at the scene of the crime. No one would talk.
I didn't see any of them.
No one would talk. So, this is a quote directly from Gary Howard, who was a Missouri sheriff assigned to the task force. We had 35 leads, and 35 leads saw nothing and heard nothing.
Yeah, it was quiet that day.
A telephone hotline was set up for tips on what might have happened. Anonymous tips. No one called but the media. On July 20th, 6 days after McElroy was buried in St. Joseph, the task force turned over its evidence to Nottoway County Prosecutor Baird. He and Estes convened a coroner's inquest with a 6-person jury of county residents the following day. Jurors heard evidence from law enforcers, Trina McElroy, and several men who were at the scene of the shooting, including Postmaster Jim Hartman, Skidmore Mayor Steve Peter, and Red Smith, the bartender at the D&G.
Mm-hmm.
The jury ruled that McElroy, quote-unquote, died from bullets fired by a person or persons unknown.
Yeah.
It issued no arrest warrant because of the insufficient evidence. 3 weeks later, a state grand jury was impaneled, and it met for 15 sessions over the ensuing 5 weeks. The 12 jurors heard the same witnesses as the county panel, as well as Sheriff Estes and Romaine Henry and Bo Bowenkamp, the 2 men McElroy had been accused of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
The state grand jury also heard from Del Clement, a young farmer and the son of the co-owner of D&G Tavern. From the start, Trina McElroy had told the authorities that she saw Clement holding a rifle as she got out of the truck in the moments after the shooting. The jury heard forensic evidence about McElroy's wounds, indicating he was hit by at least one .22 caliber slug and another from an 8mm rifle. This confirmed evidence of shell casings found on Main Street. So the location of the casings and the forensic evidence indicated that one of the shooters was positioned in the spot where Trina saw Clement. On September 25th, the grand jury ended its investigation with no indictment. Trina McElroy had identified Clement as one of the shooters in her testimony before both grand juries, but no witnesses could or would corroborate that identification, and the jurors apparently judged that her testimony alone was insufficient to bring an indictment. So, basically, no one got charged.
My thing is, why wouldn't she just keep her stupid mouth shut?
Because we have to think about where her headspace is at. She is completely 100% a victim, but she's so horribly manipulated by him that she's in on it. She's in on everything that he's been up to. And at this point, she's going to defend him because he is all that she knows from the age of 13 on.
I know. I'm irritated.
It is what happens a lot with victims. This happens in, like, religious cults, cults in general, I guess. Like, they get manipulated for so long by somebody that basically tells them, like, I'm all you have. I'm the only one who's going to tell you the truth. I'm the only one who's going to do this for you, do that for you. It's like, okay, whatever. So they obviously saw that and were like, no, we're not going to take just her testimony and ride with it. We need at least one other person who was somehow involved that's not on the side of Ken McElroy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they also were like, this guy is really fucked up. And he deserved this. So, yeah. Because a jury, those people are just people. Those are normal people. who obviously have morals and an understanding of good and bad. And if I was in the case of juror, which I guess don't put me as a juror, don't call me for jury duty, but I'd be like, did he deserve it? Yes. Do we need to indict someone? I don't know. So, on the 20-year anniversary of the shooting, Baird indicated to the Maryville Daily Forum that the 6 men on the county jury for the coroner's inquest faced the dilemma of whether to indict Clement based on Trina's words. So basically, going back to this, they were not, this is a quote from him, they were not willing to say, based on the evidence, if it was done by a specific person, Baird said. On the other hand, I wouldn't have been surprised had they named a specific person based on Miss McElroy's testimony. So he was basically saying they definitely knew that this person was involved and totally shot him, but they don't care. They wanted it to happen. Half of the jury is people who are in the town.
Yeah.
Like, so.
I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So.
Exactly. So the U.S. Justice Department ordered an FBI investigation because for some reason they really want to fucking know. Agents interviewed witnesses once again that winter, and in the spring of 1982, a federal grand jury heard testimony from the same witnesses. And that September, the federal probe ended without indictment. The Federals announced, however, that they had turned over, quote-unquote, important new evidence to Prosecutor Baird. He reviewed the information, but was not impressed. He finally announced, after careful consideration and evaluation, I have determined that there is not current sufficient evidence with which to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Hey.
And there the case sits today. So, even Baird, in the end, 20 years after, he was a fresh out of law school kid who didn't know one thing from the other. 20 years
his
later.
ass from his elbow.
20 years later, he's like, yeah, I don't think we have enough evidence. We don't have enough evidence. Yeah, he
it's
knew.
Just so hard.
He knew
I
he could have gotten someone, and he was like, no. This town deserves freedom.
Really, though?
Because the justice system failed them so hard.
Yeah.
So horribly.
Like a bajillion freaking times.
Yeah. So, that is the story of the town where no one knew a thing.
I loved it. My head hurts, but I loved it.
I think, like you said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And I think a lot of people love vigilantes in media because those are the people who stand up for these people who are not being seen by the justice system and finally, like, get these criminals or these villains, like, they get them for what they've been doing. So, I really vibe with this story. I hate Ken McElroy. I think he was a horrible person and deserved everything that came to him. I think they should have killed him sooner, but that's just my opinion. I think that this is a really good story about community, and what you can do as a community. I mean, it's horrible. Yeah, they murdered someone, but they stood up for their community as a whole.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take it any longer, and nobody was helping them, and they did what they had to do.
And I think that's kind of where I'm lying as well. Like, I'm not someone that condones murder, obviously.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, if you've been failed over and over and over again, and the only solution you see to get yourself out of an incredibly difficult situation is that, in this circumstance specifically, I'll turn a blind eye.
100%. And, like, yeah, I don't even know. It's such a crazy story. The fact that this happened for so long into the 80s, which doesn't feel like a long time ago, but it is quite a while ago. But it still doesn't feel like it was that long ago that this was happening. And I know this happens a lot now to this day. I think a lot of the justice system turns a blind eye to the people who are really perpetuating these horrible acts of violence, these horrible things, and protecting pedophiles and protecting all these people who do stuff like this.
Epstein.
Huh? Who?
I said Epstein.
Yes, exactly. And then they're going after these people doing petty crimes and imprisoning them for like 20 years because they had weed. Like, it's
I don't
disgusting.
give a shit if Jimmy Trevano sold weed on the street for 15 years. Get the fucking pedophiles.
Exactly. It's so bad. But this is a story that overall is a very negative story, but has some kind of a positive ending, I would say. They finally got peace on July 10th, 1981. The town of Skidmore, Missouri, finally got peace.
Yeah, I'm glad that they can finally just, like, frickin' breathe again, you know?
Yeah. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks for sharing it, dude. That was a really good one.
Yeah. It took me a very long time to write this.
But you did an incredible job, so...
Thank you.
Cheers, cheers, hooray, hooray. Claps.
Katie, you want to sign us out?
Don't be a fucking douche nozzle, okay? Like, don't be this fake Elvis impersonating prick who's just, like, fat and has too thick of eyebrows, and just don't.
If there's a
be kind to people.
20-year age gap between you and your significant other, even if they're legal age, don't fucking do it, because that's fucking weird. But also, don't touch children. Be a fucking grown-ass adult human and care for people. And
yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna tell the audience not to touch children, because, like, I feel like that's...
I'm just throwing it out there in case there's a fucking weirdo listening. You know I hate you.
I don't think the weirdo listening's gonna listen to you. Regardless, anyway, if you want more of whatever this is, you can find us on social media at Wading Into the Void. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a website, wadingintothevoid.com. And we really hope you stick around. You join us for another episode. And we hope to see you again soon.
Yes.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.